The text arrived at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Family emergency. Everyone at the house tomorrow, 2 p.m. sharp. Don't be late. Dad, I stared at my phone screen, lying in my Chicago apartment, my laptop still open with quarterly reports scattered across my bed. 3 years. That's how long it had been since I'd received a direct message from my father. I typed back, "What's the emergency?" 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. No response came. At 6 a.m. my phone rang. "Mom. You got your father's message." Her voice was tight, anxious. "Yes. What's going on? Just please come. We need you here." She paused. "It's about the lake house." My stomach dropped. "What about it?" "Your father will explain everything. Just come." The line went dead. I called my boss at 7 a.m., claimed a family emergency, and by 9 a.m. I was on I-94 heading south toward Cedar Falls, Indiana. 3 hours of highway gave me too much time to think. The lake house, Grandma Elena's property, 15 acres on Mirror Lake with a sprawling main house, guest cottage and boathouse. She died 4 years ago, leaving everything in a trust with specific instructions. I'd been 23, fresh out of graduate school, drowning in student loans and barely making rent. The memory came back sharp and clear. Dad calling me into his home office, Mom standing by the door wringing her hands. "Your grandmother's estate is complicated," he'd said, papers spread across his desk. "There are debts, property taxes, maintenance costs. The lawyers need documentation, signatures. You're listed as a beneficiary, so you need to sign these forms." I'd been exhausted, overwhelmed, grieving. The documents were dense legal text. Dad had pointed to signature lines, explained in his confident financial advisor voice that this was standard estate processing. I'd signed multiple documents, notarized by his secretary. "This protects the property," he'd assured me, "keeps it in the family, makes sure we can handle the estate taxes without losing Grandma's house." I hadn't thought about it since. I was building my career, working 80-hour weeks at the consulting firm, traveling constantly. The lake house remained a distant childhood memory. Summer weekends, Grandma's cooking, my brother Marcus and I catching fireflies by the dock. Now, pulling into my parents' driveway in Cedar Falls, that memory felt contaminated somehow. Dad's Mercedes sat in the garage. Marcus's BMW was parked on the street, newer and shinier than I remembered. Mom's Lexus blocked the mailbox. I drove my 4-year-old Honda Civic around the block and parked, suddenly self-conscious. The front door was unlocked. I walked into the familiar colonial-style house, the smell of Mom's vanilla candles mixing with fresh coffee. "In here," Dad's voice called from the dining room. They were already seated, Dad at the head of the table in his usual position of authority, wearing a polo shirt and khakis, like he'd just come from the country club. Mom to his right, her hair perfectly highlighted, her manicure fresh. Marcus across from her, wearing a designer button-down, his Rolex catching the afternoon light. I took the empty seat at the far end. The table felt like a boardroom. "You look tired," Mom said, her version of a greeting. 3-hour drive," I replied. Dad didn't waste time. "We're selling the lake house." The words hit like a physical blow. I gripped the edge of the table. "What?" "The property on Mirror Lake," Marcus added as if I needed clarification. "Listing goes up tomorrow. Realtor says we should get $3.2 million, maybe more with the recent developments on the North Shore." My mouth went dry. $3.2 million. "Market's been incredible," Dad said, pulling out his tablet. He swiped through photos, professional shots of the lake house, the grounds, the water. "Property values in the area have tripled since Grandma bought it. We've already had 2 potential buyers express interest before the official listing." "We can't sell it," I said automatically. "It's Grandma's house. She wanted it kept in the family." Dad's expression hardened. "Elena's been gone 4 years. The property taxes alone are $47,000 annually. Maintenance, insurance, utilities for a house nobody uses. It's hemorrhaging money. Nobody uses it because you never invited me," I said quietly. Marcus laughed, sharp and dismissive. "Oh, here we go. The victim routine. You've been too busy with your big career in Chicago to care about family property." "I came every time I was invited," I shot back. "Which was never enough," Dad snapped. This isn't about hurt feelings. This is about financial reality. We've been carrying this property for 4 years at massive expense. The market timing is perfect. We sell now, split the proceeds, everyone benefits. Split how? I asked. Dad pulled up a spreadsheet on his tablet. After closing costs, realtor fees, and outstanding debts, we're looking at approximately $2.8 million net. Your mother and I take 50%. Marcus gets 30%. You get 20%. The numbers were so absurd I almost laughed. Why do I get less? Because Marcus has been handling property management, Mom said, her voice defensive. He's the one who's been going up there, maintaining the grounds, coordinating repairs. And because, Dad added, his tone leaving no room for argument, your mother and I fronted the estate taxes and carrying costs for 4 years. That needs to be recouped. I looked at Marcus. He wouldn't meet my eyes. So I get $560,000. I said slowly. For Grandma's property, that's more than you'd make in 5 years at your salary, Marcus said. Don't act like you're being cheated. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. What outstanding debts? I asked. Dad, he waved a hand dismissively. Estate obligations, legal fees, property improvements Marcus oversaw. It's all documented. Another buzz. Then another. When were you planning to tell me about this sale? I asked. We're telling you now, Dad said. The family needed to make a financial decision. We made it. Without consulting me. You haven't been reachable, Mom said. You're always working, always traveling. We can't put our lives on hold, waiting for you to have time for family matters. My phone rang. The vibration loud against the wooden table. I pulled it out. First National Bank. My mortgage lender. Something cold slid down my spine. I need to take this, I said. We're in the middle of Dad started, I answered, putting the phone on speaker before he could finish. My hand was shaking. Hello? Miss Martinez, this is Jennifer Walsh, from First National Bank, Collections Department. The room went silent. Yes, this is she. Miss Martinez, I'm calling regarding the defaulted loan account, ending in 7,834. You're listed as co-signer on an $800,000 line of credit secured by the property at 1847 Lakeshore Drive, Mirror Lake, Indiana. The account is 127 days past due with a current balance of $847,000, including late fees and interest. The words didn't make sense. I stared at the phone on the table. I'm sorry, there must be a mistake. I don't have any loan for. You co-signed the loan on September 14, 2021. Jennifer Walsh continued, her voice professional but firm. With Thomas and Patricia Martinez as primary borrowers, the collateral is the Mirror Lake property, which according to our records is owned by Martinez Family Trust, with you listed as trustee. The room tilted. Dad's face had gone white. Mom's hand covered her mouth. Marcus was staring at his phone, suddenly very interested in the screen. I'm trustee? My voice sounded distant. Yes, ma'am. Elena Martinez established the trust in 2019, naming you as sole trustee upon her death in 2021. The property transferred to the trust, and you assumed trustee responsibility. Is this information incorrect? My mind raced back. The documents Dad had me sign, the state processing paperwork. Those documents, I whispered, looking at my father. You said they were for estate taxes. Dad's jaw clenched. He said nothing. Miss Martinez, Jennifer Walsh continued. Are you aware that the property is currently listed for sale? I just learned about it 5 minutes ago. A pause on the line. Ma'am, as trustee and co-signer, any sale of the collateral property requires your explicit written authorization and must proceed through the bank to satisfy the outstanding loan balance. Has anyone from your family discussed this with you? No. Another pause, longer this time. I see. Miss Martinez, I need to inform you that given the default status and the apparent lack of communication, we're required to initiate foreclosure proceedings within 30 days, unless the account is brought current or satisfactory payment arrangements are made. How much to bring it current? I asked, my voice hollow. $127,000. in past due payments plus $18,000 in fees. Total of $145,000. Dad pushed back from the table, standing abruptly. This is a private family matter, sir. Jennifer Walsh's voice cut through. Professional ice. This is a legal banking matter involving loan default and potential fraud. I suggest you allow Miss Martinez to finish this conversation. He sat back down, his face purple. Miss Martinez, Jennifer continued. I'm emailing you complete loan documentation, trust documents, and payment history. I strongly recommend you review everything with an attorney. We'll need to schedule a meeting within 10 business days to discuss resolution options. I understand I managed. I'm sorry to deliver this news. We'll be in touch soon. The line went dead. Nobody spoke. The dining room clock ticked loudly. I looked at the three of them. My family. Explain, I said quietly. Mom started crying. Actual tears. Mascara running. Marcus finally looked up from his phone. It's not as bad as it sounds. $800,000. I said. Explain how that's not as bad as it sounds. Dad cleared his throat, regaining some composure. When your grandmother died, the estate had complications. The property needed significant work. Roof repairs, foundation issues, dock replacement. The trust didn't have liquid assets to cover it. So you took out a loan. We secured financing to preserve the property value, he corrected. As trustee, you had the authority to approve it. I didn't approve anything. I signed papers you told me were for estate taxes. You signed authorization forms, Dad said, his voice hardening. Legal documents giving us power of attorney to manage trust assets during the transition period. You lied to me. We protected a family asset. Mom burst out. The house was falling apart. We had to do something. With my signature, my credit, using property I apparently own as collateral. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. The payments were manageable at first. Dad's business was doing well. We were covering it. At first. Silence. I pulled out my laptop from my bag, opening my email. The bank's message was already there. I downloaded the attachments, my hands trembling. The loan documents were dense, but the signatures were clear. Mine. Notarized. September 14, 2021. The same day I'd signed what I thought were estate tax forms. The trust documents told a different story. Grandma Elena had established the Mirror Lake Family Trust in 2019, 14 months before she died. The property deed showed transfer to the trust, with me named as sole trustee. Not Dad, not Mom, me. Why? I asked, looking up at them. Why did Grandma make me trustee? Mom's tears had stopped. Her face was hard now. Because she always favored you, her precious granddaughter, who went to graduate school, who had the promising career. She thought you were responsible. While Marcus was what? Irresponsible. Marcus had some setbacks, Dad said defensively. Business ventures that didn't pan out. Your grandmother didn't understand entrepreneurship, didn't appreciate risk-taking. I scrolled through the payment history. Regular monthly payments of $6,800 for the first 18 months. Then missed payments. 1, 2, 5, 10. What happened? I asked. Why did you stop paying? Marcus looked at Dad. Dad looked at the table. Dad's firm lost some major clients. Marcus finally said, market downturn, bad investments, and my restaurant, it didn't work out. Restaurant, in Bloomington, high-end fusion concept, great location, professional kitchen setup, liquor license, all top tier. How much? He hesitated. Total startup costs were about $340,000. My stomach lurched. From the loan. The loan that was supposed to be for property repairs. It was an investment opportunity, Dad said. The restaurant could have generated income to cover the loan payments. It was sound financial planning. Except it failed. The market wasn't ready for that level of culinary sophistication in a college town. Marcus said defensively. It wasn't my fault. I scrolled further. More charges. $47,000. To Martinez Property Solutions LLC. $89,000. To Cedar Falls Development Group. $52,000. To Executive Asset Management. What are these companies? I asked. No answer. I pulled out my phone, searching the business names. Marcus's name came up linked to two of them. Dad's to the third. You set up LLCs, I said, the picture becoming clear. Funneled loan money through them. Made it look like legitimate property expenses. We invested in opportunities that would benefit the family, Dad said, his voice rising. Real estate development, asset management. These are normal business practices. Using money borrowed against my property, in my name. The trust's property, he corrected, technically, which I control as trustee, which you never told me. Mom stood up, her chair scraping. You were so young when Elena died, so inexperienced. We were protecting you from the burden of managing a complex estate, by committing fraud. Don't use that word, Dad snapped. We're family. Everything we did was to preserve family assets. No, I said, standing to face him. Everything you did was to access money you couldn't get on your own. You used my credit because yours was probably maxed out. You used my signature because I trusted you. And you planned to sell the property without telling me because you thought I'd never find out I owned it. We raised you, Mom said, her voice shaking with anger. Paid for your education, your car, your wedding. I paid for graduate school myself with loans and scholarships. I bought my own car. And I've been divorced for 2 years, which you'd know if you ever asked about my life. She flinched. I looked at Marcus. The property management you've supposedly been doing. The maintenance that justified your 30% cut. How much of that actually happened? He wouldn't answer. I pulled up my photo gallery, found pictures from last summer. I'd driven past the lake house on a work trip. Hadn't stopped but had taken photos from the road. The roof looked fine. The dock was old but standing. The grounds were overgrown but not destroyed. There was no foundation repair, I said. No dock replacement. No emergency maintenance. There was routine upkeep. Marcus protested weakly. Which property taxes covered? I said. Taxes I now realize I've been paying without knowing it. I opened my banking app, searching back through years of statements. There, monthly auto drafts to Cedar Falls County Tax Collector. $3,900 per month. You set up auto pay from my account, I said, the betrayal settling like lead in my chest. For property taxes on a house I didn't know I owned. We sent you the papers, Mom said desperately. The account authorization forms. You signed them. Among dozens of estate documents you told me were standard processing. Dad's phone rang. He ignored it. Mine rang again. Jennifer Walsh, the bank. I answered this time not on speaker. Miss Martinez, I'm calling with additional information. Our fraud investigation team has flagged several irregularities with the loan account. We'd like to schedule a meeting with you alone, without other family members present, to discuss your options. When? Tomorrow morning if possible. Our Cedar Falls branch, 9 a.m., I'll be there. Miss Martinez, one more thing. Don't sign anything else. Don't authorize any property transfers, and if you have somewhere else to stay tonight, I'd recommend that. I looked at my parents' faces, at Marcus's guilty expression. Understood. Thank you. I ended the call and began packing up my laptop. Where are you going? Mom demanded. Hotel. You can stay here, she said, her voice cracking. This is still your home. Is it? I asked. Or is this just another thing you've been lying to me about? Dad stood, attempting authority. You walk out that door. You're making a terrible mistake. Family doesn't turn on family. We can work this out, restructure the debt, sell the property, everyone comes out ahead. Everyone except me. Apparently. You get $560,000, Marcus said. For doing nothing, while I've been managing. Managing what? I snapped. Managing how to spend money that wasn't yours. Managing a failed restaurant. Managing to avoid telling me I've been paying property taxes for 4 years on a house I didn't know I owned. He shut up. I walked toward the door. Mom followed, grabbing my arm. Please, she whispered. Don't destroy this family over money. I looked at her hand on my arm, then at her face. She looked older than I'd realized. Tired, scared. You destroyed it, I said quietly. When you decided lying to me was easier than treating me like family. I pulled away and walked out. The Hampton Inn by the highway became my base of operations. That night, I didn't sleep. I read every document the bank had sent: loan agreements, trust deed, property records, payment histories, email chains I was never copied on. The picture was worse than I'd imagined. The trust was ironclad. Grandma Elena had established it specifically to protect the property from estate taxes and ensure it stayed in family hands. The language was explicit. I was sole trustee with complete authority over all trust decisions. Any sale, mortgage, or encumbrance required my written approval as trustee. The loan documents showed my signature as both co-signer and trustee authorizing the collateral. But the supporting emails, the ones I'd never seen, showed Dad corresponding with the bank, answering questions, providing documentation, using an email address that looked like mine but was slightly different: sarah.martinez.trust@gmail.com, instead of my actual sarah.e.martinez@gmail.com. He'd created a fake email account, impersonated me. For 2 years, the property appraisal in the loan file valued the lake house at $2.9 million as of 2021, now worth $3.2 million, according to Dad's realtor. I pulled up the county property records. The tax bills were public record. I'd been paying $47,000 annually for 4 years, nearly $190,000 in property taxes, money I could have used to pay off my student loans, to buy a better car, to save for a house of my own. Instead, it had gone to maintain property I didn't know I owned, while my family took out loans against it and planned to sell it without telling me. At 3 a.m., I called my college roommate Jessica. She was an attorney in Indianapolis. "Sarah, it's 3 in the morning. Are you okay? I need a lawyer, a really good one. Tomorrow." I explained everything. She listened without interrupting. "Jesus," she finally said. That's pretty serious fraud. Multiple counts probably. Wire fraud, identity theft, breach of fiduciary duty." "I don't want to send my parents to prison," I said quickly. "I just want to protect myself." "Sarah, they forged your signature on loan documents, created fake email accounts to impersonate you, stole nearly $1 million using your credit. You might not have a choice about criminal charges once this gets investigated." My stomach churned. What do I do? First, meeting with the bank tomorrow. I'm coming with you. Don't go alone. Second, we file for an emergency restraining order preventing any sale or transfer of the property. Third, we start documentation for the authorities. You didn't commit fraud, but you need to make that very clear before your parents try to implicate you. Would they do that? Her pause was answer enough. Text me the bank address. I'll be there at 8:30. And Sarah, don't talk to your family. Not until we understand the full legal situation. Jennifer Walsh was younger than I expected, maybe 35, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She led Jessica and me into a conference room and closed the door. "Miss Martinez, thank you for coming in. I've reviewed the account thoroughly, and I want to be direct with you. This is one of the clearest cases of financial fraud I've encountered." She laid out printouts, highlighted sections, email chains. "Your father opened the credit line using forged trustee authorization. He created a fraudulent email account to correspond with our loan officers. He made draws on the line of credit without your knowledge or consent. The money was transferred to accounts you don't control, spent on purposes unrelated to the property." "What happens now?" I asked. "Normally we'd pursue foreclosure. The loan is in default. The collateral covers the balance. But in this case, the actual property owner, you as trustee, is also a victim of the fraud. Our legal team has advised that foreclosing on a victim's property while the perpetrators face no consequences would be both unjust and potentially open us to liability. So what are my options?" Jennifer looked at Jessica, then back at me. "We're willing to work with you on a modified repayment plan, provided you cooperate with a criminal investigation. The FBI's Financial Crimes Unit handles cases like this. Your father's actions constitute wire fraud, bank fraud, and identity theft, all federal offenses." My hands were shaking. "And if I don't want to press charges, then we have no choice but to proceed with foreclosure," Jennifer said, not unkindly. "The bank has been defrauded. Someone has to be held accountable. If not your father, then as co-signer, that would be you. Jessica put a hand on my arm. Sarah, you didn't do anything wrong. But legally your signature is on these documents. Without proving fraud, you're liable for the debt. How much to settle the loan? I asked. Jennifer consulted her papers. $847,000 current balance. If you paid in full, we'd close the account. You'd own the property free and clear. I laughed, a bitter sound. I don't have $847,000. Could you sell the property? Maybe, but it would take months. And my family is trying to sell it out from under me. Not if we file an emergency injunction. Jessica said. She looked at Jennifer. Can the bank support a court order preventing sale or transfer pending resolution? Absolutely. We have standing as lien holders. I can have our attorneys file this afternoon. Jessica pulled out her laptop. Then here's what we do. Emergency filing today prevents your family from selling. We notify them through the court that you're aware of the fraud, that all property decisions go through you as trustee, and that any further unauthorized actions will result in criminal charges. Will that work? I asked. It'll freeze everything while we sort out the legal situation. But Sarah, you need to decide. Do you want to pursue criminal charges against your father, against your brother for accepting stolen money? I thought about Mom's tears, Marcus's guilty face, Dad's arrogance. I want to talk to them first, I said finally. One more time, with lawyers present, lay out exactly what they've done, and give them one chance to make it right. Jennifer nodded. That's reasonable. But Miss Martinez, understand that regardless of your wishes, once we report the fraud to federal authorities, the investigation proceeds whether you cooperate or not. These are serious crimes. I know, I whispered. The court injunction was served at 4 p.m. that same day. Jessica arranged for a neutral mediator's office to host the meeting. Dad's attorney, Mom, Marcus, and his attorney all showed up looking shell-shocked. The mediator, a retired judge named Paulson, laid out the situation with brutal clarity. Mr. Martinez, you are facing federal wire fraud charges, carrying up to 20 years in prison. You forged your daughter's signature on loan documents, created false email accounts to impersonate her, and misappropriated $800,000 in funds, using property you don't own as collateral. Dad's attorney, a nervous-looking man named Stevens, tried to interrupt. Your Honor, this is a family dispute over estate management. This is criminal fraud. Judge Paulson cut him off. The FBI has been notified. The bank is cooperating. The only question is whether Miss Martinez pursues civil damages on top of the criminal charges. Mom was crying again. Marcus stared at the table. Sarah, Dad said, his voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. Please, we made mistakes. But we're family. Don't do this. You did this, I said, my voice steady, despite the tears on my face. You lied, you forged, you stole. And you were going to sell Grandma's house and keep the money without ever telling me I owned it. We would have given you your share, Marcus protested. 20% of property I own. That's generous of you. Jessica pulled out a document. Here's what we're offering. One time, non-negotiable. She slid it across the table. Miss Martinez keeps the property, free and clear. You pay off the $847,000 loan. Within 180 days, you repay the $190,000 in property taxes she's paid. That's $1,037,000 total. In exchange, she doesn't pursue civil damages and cooperates with a federal plea agreement, where you serve probation instead of prison time. Dad's attorney read the document, his face going pale. My client doesn't have that kind of money. Then you sell your house, Jessica said simply. Liquidate your retirement accounts, take out loans, but you pay what you stole, or Mr. Martinez goes to federal prison. This is extortion, Stevens protested. This is restitution, Judge Paulson corrected. And it's extraordinarily generous given the severity of the crimes. Miss Martinez has no legal obligation to offer any deal at all. The room was silent, except for Mom's crying. Sarah, she whispered, we raised you. We're your parents. You stole from me, I said. You used my love for you, my trust in you, to commit crimes that could have destroyed my life.
Mm.
You were willing to leave me, holding an $800,000 debt while you split millions. We never meant, yes you did, I interrupted.
Mm.
You planned it, executed it, and you would have gotten away with it if the bank hadn't called. I stood up. You have 180 days. Pay the money, or Dad goes to prison. Those are the only options. 6 months later, I sat on Grandma Lena's dock, my feet dangling over the water. The lake was glass smooth, reflecting the sunset in shades of orange and pink. The wire transfer had come through 3 days ago, $1,037,000. They'd sold their house, cashed out Dad's 401k, taken a second mortgage on Marcus's condo. Mom had gone back to work as a nurse. Marcus had moved into a studio apartment. The loan was paid off. The property was mine, free and clear. Dad took a plea deal. 5 years probation, 500 hours of community service, and permanent prohibition from working in financial services. Marcus avoided charges entirely by cooperating with investigators. We hadn't spoken since the mediator's office. I'd received one email from Mom.
Yeah.
3 paragraphs of self-justification and blame. I deleted it without responding. My phone buzzed. Jessica, house officially in your name only. Trust dissolved per your instruction. Congrats on owning a $3.2 million property outright. What's the plan? I looked out at the water, at the house Grandma Lena had loved, the place she'd trusted me to protect. Keep it. Come here sometimes. Remember what family should mean. And what's that? I thought about Grandma teaching me to fish from this dock, making pancakes in the kitchen, telling me stories about her childhood. Truth, trust, respect, everything they weren't. A loon called across the water. The sun dipped below the tree line. My phone buzzed again. An unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me. Hello, Sarah. A man's voice unfamiliar. This is David Chen. I'm your grandmother's attorney. Well, was her attorney. I helped her set up the trust. Okay, I need to apologize. I should have explained things to you more clearly when she passed. Should have made sure you understood your role as trustee. If I had, maybe this whole situation could have been avoided. Why didn't you? He sighed. Your father was very persuasive, very insistent that he should handle everything, that you were too young, too busy. I let him convince me. I'm sorry. I watched the water, the last light fading. Chen, did Grandma tell you why she made me trustee? Why not my parents? She did. He paused. She said you were the only one who loved the lake house for what it was, not what it was worth. The only one who understood that some things aren't meant to be sold. Tears blurred my vision. Thank you for telling me that. Your grandmother was proud of you, Sarah. I think she'd be proud of how you handled this too. Not many people would have shown the restraint you did. After he hung up, I sat in the gathering darkness, letting the tears come. Tomorrow I'd go back to Chicago, back to my job, my apartment, my life. But now I had this place, this proof that at least one person in my family had believed in me enough to trust me with what mattered most. It wasn't the family I'd wanted, but maybe it was the family I'd earned. The loon called again across the water. I called back, my voice echoing over the lake.